Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Let Me Bend Your Ear podcast. My name is Frank. I'm the host of the show. On this show, I discuss and review movies new and old. If you are a follower of this podcast and listen to it, I want to thank you very much. I know it's been quite a bit of time since I've been on, but I'm happy to be on tonight live. I'm going to be discussing and reviewing the movie Rolling Thunder, starring William Devane, that came out in 1977. But before I do that, just a little housekeeping. Again, this is a podcast where I discuss movies new and old. So you can find this podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. So I would uh, humbly ask, if you do listen to this podcast or checking it out for the first time, if you can please click and subscribe wherever it is you get your podcast. The show is pretty much available everywhere. You know, it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify, pretty much anywhere. If you Google Let Me Bend Your Ear podcast, you can pretty much find it. And if you do subscribe, if you could do me a favor, rate and review the show, that is a huge determiner of how it ends up in the algorithm. So hopefully anyone that's looking for a new show to watch or to listen to regarding movie reviews, that this show will come up in their feed. So if you could do that, I'd appreciate it. I am also available social media wise on X at Bend Your Ear Pod. That's also the handle for YouTube. So if you watch the show, if you can please click and subscribe on there as well. I'm looking to build my subscriber base on YouTube as well. If you could do that. The show also is available on video on Rumble and on X. So if you're watching live now, you'll see it there, or you can see it later. But like I said, if you want to watch the show later on demand, you can always go to YouTube. That's probably the easiest and best place to do it. But again, the show does broadcast both on Rumble and on X as well. So if you could do that, I'd really appreciate it. Again, you can follow the show on X at Bend Your Ear Pod. If you can see here on the left, if you're watching the show live, there is a QR code. If you're so inclined and are a fan of the show, if you want to support it, please feel free to do that. Every little bit helps. I have to incur costs for the website, the streaming software, things like that. So anything that you can contribute to help would be greatly appreciated. All right. Before I get into the review of Rolling Thunder, what I'm going to start doing, I do movie reviews on this podcast if you've never heard it before. And eventually, not eventually, excuse me, occasionally I'll talk about TV shows. I don't really fully review them. Sometimes I'll throw a review up on my X feed on a television show or a movie that I've seen that's on television. But I did want to talk about, I'm not going to review it, but I am going to discuss it, is the new John Candy documentary that's now airing on Amazon Prime titled I Like Me. Now, I am a huge fan of John Candy, always have been. John Candy is a star of the 80s and early 90s, obviously before his very untimely death at a young age. But as an 80s kid, Gen X, he is a big part of my growing up and watching 80s movies. I'll never forget it. The first time I saw him was, I believe, in his debut role, which was Splash. So that film came out in 1984, directed by Ron Howard. It starred Tom Hanks, Daryl Hannah, and John Candy. Now, of course, Splash is most famous for actually probably making stars out of both Tom Hanks for sure, and definitely Daryl Hannah as well. But John Candy had a memorable supporting role as Tom Hanks' brother. They co-owned a business, and his brother was just, funny, hilarious, a lot of charisma. And like I said, I known a little bit about John Candy because, of course, he was born and raised in Canada, grew up there, and then ended up on SCTV, which of course was a similar show, not similar because it's a completely different, but a Saturday Night Live sketch comedy show type show, and obviously it created stars: John Candy, Eugene Levy, Rick Moranis, Dave Thomas, Catherine O'Hara, um, just a group of comedians that came out and did, most of all, Martin Short had fantastic careers, and John Candy, I think, was in the original cast. So I did watch some SCTV and I was really little when it came out, late 70s. But really, my introduction to John Candy as the comic actor was in Splash, and he was just fantastic. He was hilarious in that film. Then, of course, that was a springboard for him to a pretty good movie career that, like I said, peaked in the probably mid to late 80s. So obviously, I saw him in a bunch of films. Brewster's Millions with Richard Pryor, which is I reviewed for this podcast, which is a hilarious movie. He did, Summer Rental. He was in Stripes in 1981. So let me take that back. Stripes was actually his debut. So he had a small role in that film, and they talk about Stripes in the documentary because there's the famous scene where he does the mud wrestling, and obviously John Candy, and they discuss it in the documentary as well. Had a bunch of issues. Obviously he was a big guy, overweight, and how that affected his career, how it affected his view of himself, and that kind of negative detrimental impact that it had on his life. But the thing that I loved about the documentary is, and I've heard this pretty much anytime something is described about John Candy, he was a nice, warm, gentle individual who would do anything for his fans, go the extra mile, and was a devoted family man as well. So I know with Hollywood stars and things like that, people place, little or great importance on how they are off screen. For me, it's always better when you kind of find out that these people, that maybe you admire or are fans of, are decent human beings. Now, it doesn't have to be, the prerequisite for being a fan per se, depending on what the transgressions would be. But John Candy doesn't seem to be that type of person. He seemed like a type of person that cared about other people, that cared about doing good work, and cared about his family more importantly than anything else, which is always great to hear. And like I said, I was a huge fan of his. I think probably really two movies that come to my mind when it comes to John Candy and his work. I'll take two completely different types of performances. So I will go with 1987's Planes, Trains, and Automobiles with John Candy and Steve Martin. Of course, the classic um, film written and directed by John Hughes. Of course, if you haven't seen it, I mean, I don't know who hasn't, but it's really, I almost think the ultimate Thanksgiving movie. Uh, you know, John Candy is Del Griffith, and he's stuck with Steve Martin. Steve Martin's trying to get home for Thanksgiving. He meets Del Griffith, who's a shower curtain ring salesman, and the movie chronicles their misadventures, their mismatch. And it's just one of the funniest comedies of the '80s. And the thing about John Candy in that film, which will be reflected more in the next one I'm going to talk about with him, is he's funny. You've got the slapstick humor that he could bring without any effort. It was effortless. And John Candy, his character is, if you met him in real life and if that movie happened to you, you would probably be the Steve Martin character, where you would just be annoyed, put upon, and would be understandable. But John Candy brings so much heart to the performance and something deeper, because this could have simply just been, serious guy, wacky guy, obnoxious, can't deal with him. And it could have been that one note performance. Probably he could have still pulled that off with no problem and still been very hilarious. But what make this movie special to me is the depth and layers that he gives that character. And of course, there's the famous scene in Planes, Trains where you know Steve Martin's character just had enough, and he just rips into him in the hotel room, and you can see John Candy's face just sink as he's just being barraged with insults from Steve Martin's character. And it's just, and then he, where they got the title for this documentary, I Like Me, where he basically just says, to Steve Martin, hey, you don't like me, that's fine. I can be irritating. I can be this or that, but I'm a person that's genuine. My family likes me. My customers like me. And you could just see Steve Martin's character kind of wither under that. And then that, of course, sets the stage for how they become friends. That's really the scene in that film where it bridges from basically Steve Martin can't get away from him quickly enough to seeing that there's somebody there underneath and someone that's worthy of friendship. And it's a wonderful movie. If you've seen it, I don't have to explain it further. If you haven't, I highly recommend it, especially if you're fans of both Martin and John Candy. Now, the other movie I'm going to bring up with John Candy is, I don't know if it'll be surprising or not, but I'm going to bring up JFK. So JFK came out in 1991, directed by Oliver Stone. I have not reviewed this film for the podcast, JFK. I don't think I've reviewed any Oliver Stone movies. I might have done Wall Street, but I got to check back. So for me, Oliver Stone, and obviously started. He was a screenwriter. Platoon was his breakout movie, and then from the mid '80s, probably to the mid '90s, was probably his peak of great movies he was putting out. But I've said this, I've commented on this on X. My favorite Oliver Stone movie that I've seen of all, I haven't seen every single one of Oliver Stone's movies, but my favorite ones are the ones that I've seen. My favorite is Wall Street. Love it. Like I said, I'll review it. Spoiler alert, it'll be a phenomenal review. Love that movie. Love it to this day. His best movie, arguably, is JFK. And I'll review that movie as well. It's a dazzling 3 hour plus film that moves quick with phenomenal performances across the board. But I picked this movie because John Candy is in a very small scene in the film where he's got a scene with Kevin Costner. So, of course, if you've seen JFK, it's the true story of Jim Garrison, the Louisiana, I think he's a district attorney in Louisiana, that tries to bring a case on the JFK assassination, trying to blow up the theory that Lee Harvey Oswald was the lone assassin, or that he was even the assassin, that he was a patsy. Controversial film when it came out. It's dazzling. Whether you believe in the JFK conspiracies or not, the film is eminently watchable, super entertaining. With the amount of information that Oliver Stone throws out there, it's unbelievable. I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. But anyway, there's a small scene where John Candy is talking to Kevin Costner trying to get some information from him. I don't even know if the scene goes 5 minutes. But the thing about JFK is you can see the depth of his acting, and it's sad because we never got to really see John Candy go deeper into dramatic roles. So the comparison I can think of is obviously Robin Williams. Of course, Mork started straight comedies, and then actually throughout his entire career, he stepped in and out of drama. Like if you think of The World According to Garp, which was a dark comic drama movie, then of course his move into serious movies. And I think one of the perfect examples of drama and comedy for Robin Williams was Good Morning Vietnam, 1987 as well, Barry Levinson film, where he plays Adrian Cronauer, the DJ in Vietnam, which is also based on a true story. I think he got an Oscar nomination for that film. And then, of course, Good Will Hunting, Dead Poet Society, a series of dramatic roles, even all the way up until before his death in Insomnia, the early Christopher Nolan film. I think the film that came out after Memento, and Robin Williams is fantastic in it. But that's the tragedy of John Candy's death, is that he was not able to delve deeper into dramatic parts, which I think, had he had the opportunity with the right material, would have been fantastic. So that's very sad. But JFK, I recommend for that John Candy role. And then I'm going to throw in a third movie of John Candy that is a favorite of mine as well, and I love is and I watch it with my family probably once every 6 months, is Cool Runnings, John Turteltaub film. And of course, funny, and also loosely based on the true story of the Jamaican bobsled team. It's just, it's a fun movie overall. It's fantastic. The performances are really good. But John Candy as the coach is fantastic. And again, I bring up Cool Runnings because you see it, his character is not a wacky guy or over the top guy like he was in Planes and Trains and Automobiles or The Great Outdoors or Splash, or name any film that you remember him from. He was a former bobsledder who was disgraced because he was caught cheating. So coming in, his character is already not there for laughs, but yet still manages to be funny and still manages to bring the layers to that character of someone that was disgraced from the sport that he loved, and trying to find some redemption in coaching this team to the Olympics. So I'll throw Cool Runnings in there as well. One, it's entertaining. Two, it's another John Candy wonderful performance. So if you are a fan of John Candy, I highly recommend the documentary I Like Me on Amazon. It's streaming on Amazon right now, so definitely check it out. Like I said, I'm not going to give it a formal review. It's really entertaining. It's really good, and you get some insights into his life that you haven't gotten before, and kind of a well-rounded portrayal of what John Candy was about. So I highly recommend it. All right, let's get into the subject of this episode. So This movie is interesting to me, Rolling Thunder, 1977. So, to be honest, I had never heard of this movie until it was brought to my attention by Quentin Tarantino. So Quentin Tarantino and Roger Avery have a podcast called Video Archives, which if you've listened to it, it's basically they both started Video Archives, and it famously Quentin bought the entire movie collection from the Video Archives, stored it in his house. He has all the shelving, the videos. Basically, he has a Video Archives location located at his home. So the premise of the podcast is they'll pull a movie from the archives, usually on VHS if they have it, and they'll watch it and talk about it. They don't review it. It's not a movie review podcast. They don't talk about it. So the first time I had heard about Rolling Thunder was Quentin Tarantino, Roger Avery discussing the movie, talking about 70s movies. And the term I think that Quentin uses is revenge-o-matic movie. And that this movie was one. So that's the first time I heard of it. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And he was talking about the great William Devane performance. And for me, William Devane, I know who he is. He's been an actor for probably 50 to 60 years. He's had a long standing career. I've never seen any William Devane performances, though. I know the only William Devane performance that I've seen in depth was when he played the president on 24, which was one of my favorite shows, Kiefer Sutherland. He was on it. He's fantastic. I know he played one of the Kennedys. I don't know if it was John Kennedy. So I know he's had a television and movie career forever. But I've never seen a performance other than his performance on 24. So when they spoke about it, when Quentin and Roger spoke about it on their podcast, it was just interesting to me that they discussed it. So I'm like, all right, William Devane, I haven't seen anything. So I had it kind of in the back of my head, and then it kind of went away. So then I read Quentin Tarantino's book, Cinema Speculation, which is a fantastic book, basically of long form essays discussing, I guess, in his opinion, seminal films of the 70s to him. Because obviously his decade, which makes me laugh because his decade is the 70s, which I understand. He basically trashes 80s movies, which makes me laugh because I'm a Gen X kid and 80s are that's my wheelhouse is 80s films. I love them, a lot of them. Of course, a lot of them are terrible. I think just like any decade. He loves the 70s, but there's plenty of movies in the 70s that are garbage. But it's neither here nor there. So Cinema Speculation, he has, it's a great book. I highly recommend it as well. But he dedicates one of the essays to Rolling Thunder. So when I was reading the book, it reminded me, oh yeah, he talked about it on the podcast. And it went deeper into kind of what the movie was about. And still, though, not too deep, because it was basically the way when he talked about it and when I read the book, it was, revenge story, which of course people love revenge stories. It's one of the oldest stories that are told. So when I read it in Cinema Speculation, basically, like he said, he used that term revenge-o-matic, William Devane, great performance. And I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna seek it out and watch it and review it for the podcast, which I actually did quite some time ago. If you listen to my last episode from a couple months back, I've got a backlog of movies that I've watched and put my notes down for them. I just haven't had opportunities to broadcast a new podcast. So it's been a long time. It's been months now. So I've got a backlog of stuff that I'm ready to do. Hopefully I can get back more frequently. But anyway, I watched Rolling Thunder. So let me give you some background. Rolling Thunder came out in 1977. It was directed by John Flynn, and more notably, the screenplay was written by Paul Schrader. So if that name rings a bell, he is the acclaimed screenwriter. He worked with Scorsese a lot, so he wrote Taxi Driver, he wrote Raging Bull, I believe he wrote The Last Temptation of Christ, and he wrote and directed Hardcore, which came out I think 79 with George C. Scott, and he's still working today up until now. I know one of his later films that have been critically acclaimed I haven't seen was First Reform, starring Ethan Hawke. But obviously in the 70s, Paul Schrader was a well-regarded and still is very sought-after screenwriter. So Hayward Gould, I think, wrote the first draft of the screenplay, and then Paul Schrader came in and cleaned it up. So basically in this film, it's funny because this is a early Vietnam War movie in the sense that it's not set in Vietnam. It it's really one of those films that talk about the aftermath of coming back from Vietnam. So you have films like this, like Rolling Thunder. You have Coming Home with John Voight and Jane Fonda, the Hal Ashby film. Uh, you've got The Deer Hunter, the Michael Cimino film that came out in 1979. So around this period of time, 75 to 79, the Vietnam War ended in 1975. So that 5 year period, and I'm not talking about the 80s Vietnam, because there was another kind of resurgence of it in the 80s, starting with Platoon, Full Metal Jacket. But in the late 70s, right after the Vietnam War, you had a few films, and of course I'm forgetting about Apocalypse Now, the Francis Ford Coppola film as well. So I've heard of Deer Hunter, Apocalypse Now, Coming Home. Those films are famous. A lot of them Oscar-winning movies. Like I said, did not hear Rolling Thunder until Quentin Tarantino discussed it. So in this film, you have William Devane playing Major Charles Rains. So as the film opens, he is coming home from Vietnam and basically getting a hero's welcome back. So the movie opens at an airport. He comes in. He's actually arriving with another soldier that he served with, Master Sergeant Johnny Voden, played by Tommy Lee Jones. And I think of one of his earliest performances, because I want to say 77, and maybe his first or second, because I think Executioner Song, the television film, came out a little bit after that. So this is a very early Tommy Lee Jones performance. So they both come home. They get a hero's welcome. And what you immediately see from the two men, because it starts with the two men in the plane arriving, landing at the airport. And what you can see is just kind of a disconnect. Like, you can see that they're disconnected. Like, they're not connected at all. They quietly come back. They get their hero's welcome. They get like keys to the city, things like that. And then the Tommy Lee Jones character, so Charles Rain gets he goes to a car dealership, and they're welcoming him back as a war hero, and commenting on his bravery, which is great. And then they give him a card. They give him like this suitcase of like gold coins, or coins that are worth something for him to have, and a vehicle as well for his, thanking him for his service. So, and you can see in William Devane's performance, like I said, he's there, but he's not there. He's kind of taking it all in. He's really not saying anything other than thank you, and just really no conversation. And there's a scene basically where the girl that's working at the dealership, or that was kind of like the cute girl, tries to hit on him, and he's just not even having it. So you can see that. And then they cut to the Tommy Lee Jones character, and you could see him as being more volatile. And like I said, he's the supporting character, but they'll get back to him a little later in the movie. But sticking on Charles Rain. So he goes home. So when he left, his wife, he was married, and his wife was pregnant at the time he left. So he went to Vietnam and became a prisoner. He was a prisoner of war in Hanoi. So I don't remember if I would assume that they were in the Hanoi Hilton. So if you're not familiar with that, the infamous prison in Hanoi, where POWs were kept, and under horrific conditions of torture, psychological abuse, physical abuse, a nightmare. And he was him and Roden were both in Hanoi. So he comes back, and he's trying to reconnect with his wife. So of course, in the 5 to 6 years he's been gone, his wife has basically moved on. So she was pregnant. So of course their son is 6, 7 years old, young kid, and she's basically seeing and dating a deputy in the town. And of course the deputy's taking on kind of a fatherly role for Rain's son. One of the most, and this is when I knew that this movie was deeper than Revenge-O-Matic, and why I suspect a lot of the reason why Tarantino loves this movie a lot. There's a heartbreaking scene where Rain is playing catch with his son. They're just tossing the ball back and forth. Rain is barely saying anything, and the deputy comes home to the wife's house, and says hi to Rain's son, says hi to Rain, and he's like, I'll throw at the kid as well. Or the kid asks the deputy, hey, can you throw at me? Can you throw at me? And the deputy's like, no, throw with your dad. It's okay. So in a scene like that, normally you would expect the dad either to be annoyed by the request of the son to the deputy, to have some kind of reaction to it. But the thing that's surprising and really isn't a testament to his performance is he he just says, "Oh, don't worry about it," and then he just basically walks away. And it kind of threw me because it's like, and I think that is there to show his level of disconnection from this world that he has not been in for a long time. He's still in the mindset of being a prisoner. He's still in the mindset of at any moment he could be killed or tortured. And it was just basically, it was almost like the deputy gave Rain an excuse to get out of there. And it's not like he's trying. That's the thing that's very tragic and sad. I think he wants to connect with his son because that's really the only thing he has. He doesn't have his wife anymore. He doesn't have the soldiers in Vietnam anymore, his comrades. Really, the only thing he has is his son. And he's trying. He just doesn't know how or can't or both. So he just walks away. And me being as a father of a boy and a girl, that hit me in a certain way. And it was surprising because, like I said, you and in other movies it would have played a little bit differently. I would have thought it would play differently, but it really was heartbreaking. And he just leaves, goes to the room, and then there's, like I said, he has conversations with his wife, and basically, she's telling him, "Look, at this, we're not. This is not going to work. I'm moving on. You've been gone. I'm glad you're back, but it's not going to be what it was." And he just basically says, "Okay." He doesn't really try to fight for it. He doesn't really, like I said, it's just almost not blank because that would say there's no. It's just so the whole situation is tragic. So you've got that as a setup, okay? So no connection to anything. He's just kind of there, and then this is where the story kicks in for tragedy. So uh, this is, I guess, it's kind of a spoiler, but not really if you know anything about the movie. But I have to explain it because it's important for the rest of the film. So as I said earlier, he got some coins that are worth something that he got at the car dealership. When he came back home. So some criminals find out that he has it in his house. So he's not home. His wife and his son are home. Four criminals break in, led by the Texan, who was played, I was shocked, by James Best. Now, if that name doesn't ring a bell, if you're a Gen X kid and you watch Dukes of Hazzard and Sheriff Roscoe P. Coltrane, you know that character. A buffoon. It's comedic, over the top performance. And he is not Roscoe P. Coltrane here. He's ruthless and he's dangerous, and it's great to see him. And I know he had been an actor for a very long time. I didn't see really many of his performances pre Dukes of Hazzard. So obviously he was a dramatic actor, went into comedy, he could do, but he's frightening in this movie. So he comes in, they're looking for the coins. The wife doesn't know what's going on, and they murder the wife and the son, and they take off. So Kane comes home actually, right as the murder, I think, is taking place. So he comes home, he's accosted by the criminals, and they assault him as well, including sticking his hand into the garbage disposal and seriously injuring him, killing his wife, killing his son. Okay. So at this point, again, I'm thinking, all right, in a regular revenge movie, a revenge-o-matic, as Quentin Tarantino says it, okay, the event has happened. He's going to go in full Rambo revenge mode and start killing everything in sight. Again, that's not what happens. And it doesn't happen because it would be inconsistent with the way his character has been set up. So he is a person with deep PTSD, but was smart enough, cunning enough, and strong enough mentally to survive being a prisoner of war for multiple years in one of the worst places in the world. So the movie plays out consistent to what his character is. So from that point on, when the murders occur and the assault on him takes place, he goes to the hospital. He's recuperating. He gets out of the hospital, and he systematically is going to plan what he's going to do. and how he's going to find them and get them back. So that's the rest of the film is that journey that he takes. And back to Tommy Lee Jones's character, he goes to him and enlists him to help. So now Tommy Lee Jones's character is living back with his family. He's unhappy, and he is the type of soldier that wants to get back into the thing. Being home, well, it's different than William Devane's character. Rain, I don't think, has any desire to get back to Vietnam or to war. Tommy Lee Jones' character, on the other hand, it's the situation where now his life has no purpose. He had a purpose while he was in the war. He had a purpose, uh, killing, defending, all of that. Now he's home doing nothing, and he's miserable. I think what he wants to be is back where he was. Maybe not as a prisoner, but as a soldier. So Tommy Lee Jones's Rain comes to see him, says, "Hey, I'm gonna go after these guys that killed my wife and my son, and I need your help." And he's like, "Let's go." Not a moment's hesitation, which I'm sure Rain knew that wasn't even going to be an issue. So he picks up and leaves, and they figure this out. So as the movie moves on, he finds out that some of the criminals are in Mexico or hide in Mexico. So that's the thrust of the last half of Rolling Thunder. Now, the other thing that's surprising too is, and it's again consistent with William Devane's character and the way it's portrayed and the way it's written, and this is why it's different than Revenge movie. Like there's just no rage, there's no emotion in his revenge. It's literally, they killed my wife and son, I have to kill them. And it's really that almost matter of fact. There's no, again, just like you would see in any revenge movie, there's anger, there's that's fueling the revenge. Here it's surprising because, like I said, his performance is internal and everything he does is internalized, but he does it in such a beautiful way. The performance is phenomenal. And as it goes to its climax, when he finds them, like I said, none of this is spoilers. Revenge movies don't really throw you curveballs. So anything I'm saying here is not really a spoiler. And there's plenty to see that I'm not discussing as you watch the film, because really the beauty of Rolling Thunder is watching the performances, specifically Devane's performance as the lead. But again, the things that are surprising about it is just the internal way he handles it. And everything is just a disconnected or distance from it. And he ends up, that girl that he turned down before ends up coming with him, joining him on his trip. They do, I think they have a sex scene in the movie, but even with that, trying to make a connection with him, he's just not. That might be a chance for him to live another life. She's trying to talk him out of doing this, so maybe that they can go away together and have some kind of life. And that's not a thing that's going to happen. Again, not as well. He's single minded. Now he's mission focused, like a soldier is on the mission. But again, like I said, the tragedy about that is the thing that he's getting revenge for is for a family that he had already lost before they were murdered. His wife was gone. His son, he had no connection with. So the thing that he was getting revenge for was for something that he had really no connection to anymore, which adds a layer of tragedy that wouldn't normally be there. Because like I said, in any revenge film, he's probably a happily married man. He's close to his son. Something awful happens to him at the hands of somebody else. He goes and gets the revenge. This is different because what he had there was gone, And maybe it's something he wanted back, but didn't have the capability due to the trauma of the war to execute in a way that would have been somewhat empathetic or warm. It just wasn't there. And like I said, that's the layer of tragedy that permeates through this movie. And with Paul Schrader writing it, his theme is alienation, lone men. I mean, go to Taxi Driver. That's basically the definition of that. Out of society. Now with Travis Bickle, obviously he's a loner in New York. He feels disconnected. He has no close relationships with anybody, and is psychotic. And Rolling Thunder is kind of not the same, but the trauma is inflicted to this character, and as a result, he's completely disconnected from the world that he's back in now. So that adds that layer of tragedy, as I stated earlier, that makes the movie compelling. And like I said, as I was watching it, it's a slow burn intentionally. It's contemplative. It's thoughtful. You know, if you're going in thinking, and even I was going in thinking it was going to be a William Devane kicking everybody's ass, fun, not even fun, but just an exciting thriller, revenge. It's not that. It is a revenge movie, but it's definitely deeper than that. And I'm glad. I was pleasantly surprised on how much, and I use the word enjoy with quotes because it's not, you're not going here for a popcorn movie, Saturday afternoon fun. It's not fun. It's not a fun movie, but it is a compelling, very watchable movie with a phenomenal lead performance by William Devane. He's fantastic in the movie. And the fact that William Devane's movie career in the that it didn't take off more than what it did. And like I said, he's had a phenomenal career. Television, like he's been working constantly. It's not like he doesn't work. But just on this performance alone, I'm very happy that Quentin Tarantino just mentioned this movie, and I happened to hear it and I happened to read about it because it's really really fantastic, and I highly recommend it. Again, Tommy Lee Jones is very good as well. Early performance, he's really young in this movie, but he's good as well. But this movie is really William Devane's movie, and I'm glad he had an opportunity to showcase his talent in this film, and I'm glad I finally got to see it. So again, I highly recommend Rolling Thunder if you have not seen it. So this is 1977. John Flynn directed. Paul Schrader wrote the screenplay. I'm giving Rolling Thunder, I'm going to give it 4 stars out of 5. So on that scale, it's definitely a movie that I recommend. It's probably a movie I will see again. Like I said, it's not, if you're looking for an upbeat afternoon watching a movie, that's not this movie. But I think you'll be very impressed with the performance. Like I said, this is really a performance that makes the movie work. Really, William Devane is fantastic in the film. And it goes over those themes of post-traumatic stress before that was even a word, about the impact on war on people, the atrocities that you see. There's very quick flashbacks as the movie, more so early in the movie, of some of the torture that William Devane endured while he was in Vietnam, and it's not graphic, but it comes in and out very close, flashes of what happened, and it makes the point enough to know that he suffered greatly, and this is why he is how he is when he comes back home. Definitely not the same person as when he left, and definitely a loss of humanity because of what he's gone through. So again, I highly recommend Rolling Thunder. Like I said, really for the William Devane performance, wonderful, fantastic performance, and it was a movie I would see again. Again, I'm going to give Rolling Thunder 4 stars out of 5. So I highly recommend you check it out. I think I saw it because I watched it a while back. Because again, I'm backlogged. I saw it, I think, on Tubi. It's either on Tubi or it might have been streaming on Amazon for free. I don't even think I paid for it. So definitely check it out. Just type in Rolling Thunder in your Amazon or whatever, and you can probably find it. And like I said, if you rent it, it's probably only a couple of dollars, but I think it's really worth your time. Like I said, I want to try to get deeper into more movies in the '70s as well. So I was glad I was able to kind of do a '70s movie and one that I had never seen before. So again, Rolling Thunder, 4 stars. Great performance from William Devane. All right. So I appreciate everybody that's going to be listening to the show. Again, you can follow the show on X. It's at Bend Your Ear Pod. That is the handle. You can also please go to the YouTube channel. That's also the same handle, at Bend Your Ear Pod. That is also the handle on Instagram. I am on Instagram as well. Don't go on Instagram as much as I do X. X is really my primary source of communication. So if you want to talk about this review or suggest movies or just talk movies, you can DM me or send me a post. I'll respond. I love talking movies on X. It's a lot of fun. I know people rip film Twitter, for I don't get into all that kind of nonsense. Like I like what I like, I don't like what I don't like, and I don't really engage with others' opinions about because a lot of times they're trolling and looking for that response. I'll tell you what I like and why I like it, and what I don't like and why I don't like it, and go from there. But I love having movie discussions on X, so feel free. You can email the show as well. The email is bendyourearpodcast@gmail.com. The website is letmebendyourear.com. If you go there, every episode, every audio episode, all the way back to episode 1, is available on the website. You can also download it from there too if you don't have a podcasting app. But again, I would like to ask, if you do listen on a podcasting app, whichever one it is, please, if you can, rate the show. First of all, subscribe, please. Subscribe so you get notices when the show comes into the feed. And if you subscribe to the Facebook page, when I go live, you'll get notifications when the show goes live as well. And if you can't watch it live, of course, you can watch it at your leisure on YouTube, also on Rumble at Ben Jurier Pod, also on X at Ben Jurier Pod. There's episodes there, but the probably the best 2 ways to get it is Rumble and YouTube. X is here and there on that. I think I'm still trying to figure out with X how they do the video feeds that have been up for a while. I get somewhere I just get links, so it's kind of wonky. So you can watch it like, if in the first couple of weeks that I put an episode out there. If you do watch things on X, it'll be there. But definitely, please subscribe to the to the YouTube page, and also to the Rumble page if you have Rumble. Like I said, I'm trying to build a subscriber base. So please do that. Rate and review. Leave comments. That, like I said, that helps the show. However the algorithm magic works, I don't know. I do know that the more rating and reviews a show gets on any particular app, that does help in the algorithm, and it raises the profile of the show. So obviously, a show like mine, small, independent, I need all the help I can get. So anything you can do, that'd be great. If you see any of my posts on X with episodes or anything else, please retweet or repost. I know it's not tweet anymore. That would be greatly appreciated. And again, I want to thank the people that listen and download the episodes every few months. And this happened about a week ago. Just checking downloads, and like I had like 150 downloads in like 2 days, which is a lot for me, and I'm very happy about that. I think sometimes people or a person heard a couple of episodes, like what they heard, and they just start downloading a bunch of episodes, which I love. That's fantastic. And I really, really appreciate that. So thank you. And I know most people that are out there, because I listen to a bunch of podcasts too. I don't interact. So I think when I first started this show, I was like, oh, I'm expecting, if I don't get any interaction, that means nobody's listening. I know that's not the case. I know there's people that are listening regularly. And I know there's people that are downloading episodes regularly. So, and they'll never comment. They'll never say anything. And I want to say to those people, thank you. I see when they get downloaded, that if you want to interact with me, that's great. If you don't, but continue to listen, that's totally great too. So I want to tell you, I appreciate every single download that I have. I've been doing this podcast and in the spirit of transparency, and hopefully this really helps people that are podcasting. So I've been doing this show since 2018, I believe, 18. So I just checked. I have in 6 years, 7 years now, I'm at 4,700 downloads. Okay. So that's not a lot of downloads. Okay. Compared to people that get 100,000, 200,000 downloads an episode. But let me be clear on this. And at the very beginning, or the first year or two, when I was obsessed with looking at download numbers, that bothered me if I didn't. But here's what I'm going to say, and hopefully people that have podcasts or are starting one now or have done it for a while will take this advice, and I mean this with all sincerity. 4,700 downloads, 47,000 downloads, 47 million downloads. For me, it's all the same. The fact that almost 5,000 people have downloaded episodes of something that I've created is very, very meaningful to me. Every single one of them mean a lot to me. And I am very grateful, and I will always be grateful. I do this for fun. If it got to a point where I could get thousands of downloads or hundreds of thousands of subscribers and, maybe someday monetize it as a side hustle, that would all be fantastic. I'm not saying that I don't want to do that. But what I will say is I am very proud of the downloads I have. I am very proud of everyone, because let me tell you, I remember starting this podcast and having 0 and then like 10. And you always want to do great. You always want to succeed. You always want to become bigger, but people still download the show. And that's great to me. That makes me very, very happy. And I get a lot of joy doing this. So, like I said, whether I have one fan or 5 fans that continually listen, that that find it entertaining, find it informative, find it both, is it always blows my mind, and I'm very, very grateful for that. So I want to tell that to people out there, because I think people, it's hard to create something. It's hard to go out there and put yourself out there to try to do something creative, because what you don't want, nobody wants to be rejected. Nobody wants to be in that space. But I can tell you, for me, the number one reason I do this is because I enjoy it. Not that I don't want listeners and watchers. I absolutely do. And like I said, 4,700 downloads in 7 years, it's better than zero. So the fact that people still seek it out, check it out, even if they check it out and then they don't come back, it's okay. I'm grateful that they checked it out, but I'm even more grateful for the people that stay, listen every once in a while, listen every episode, whatever it is. And I just want to say, anybody that's out there that wants to create, please create, because this gives me a lot of satisfaction, just personally. I love talking movies. I've been a movie buff since I was a child, literally. And I don't get to talk about movies enough. I don't do this podcast enough because I don't have the time. And that's the only part of this that's frustrating and sad to me, that I don't get to do this all the time. If it was up to me, I would probably record an episode every day and would love every second of it. So that's the only thing that I want to try to do, is broadcast more. If you listen to the show on a regular basis, you keep hearing me say that, and it hasn't come to fruition, but I'm going to continue to say it and hopefully will it into existence and do that. That's why I wanted to come back and talk about the John Candy documentary, talk about the movie that I just reviewed, Rolling Thunder. But again, anybody that's out there that is maybe thinking about starting a podcast, and this is the thing I always say too, I know the jokes, there's 10 billion podcasts. Yeah, so what? What's you adding one more going to hurt? If that's something you're interested in doing, whatever it is, a podcast about movies, a podcast about you, whatever it is, if that's something you're even thinking about doing, do it. Just do it. Who cares if there's 10 billion more? Maybe you're the one that's going to break through. Maybe you're the one that's going to become the superstar podcaster, or someone with hundreds of thousands of subscribers. I don't know if I'll ever get there. Maybe I will, maybe I won't, but it doesn't matter. What matters is I get to do this whenever I want. I enjoy it. I don't have anybody telling me what to do or not do. I get to do it how I want to do it. And then the fact that anybody would find that interesting, how few or how many that is, I'm eternally grateful for each person that listens, watches, checks it out and doesn't watch again, or checks it out and sticks around. I'm forever grateful. So thank you. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. So again, thank you for listening to the Let Me Bend Your Ear podcast. Hopefully the next episode will not be 3 months from now. I will try to get on more frequently. But again, thank you so much for listening and watching. And hopefully I will see you very soon. Take care.